Do you want a Mercedes and you're deeply unhappy and doing cocaine to escape your problems? Or do you want a Honda and be pumped?
For me, though, when I was 13, I wanted to do a very large charity project. I had to raise $40,000 to complete it, and I was told no, I couldn't do that.
Yes.
It was too big for my age.
Yes.
It wasn't something I was going to be able to achieve. I was setting myself up for failure. Long story short, I was able to do it, but I think a lot of people get turned off at that point, and they're told no, that's not something you can do, and they just walk away from it, and they get turned off from charities and nonprofits. What advice do you have for people when it comes to starting, and especially if they're met with negativity that they're told, no, this is something that you can't do?
Learn to love to lose. Like, that's the whole punchline of everything I believe in. I love losing. Here's why. If I went at 16 to start a charity to raise $40,000 and I didn't, they were right. And I appreciate the experience of that loss. I adore losing because it's fair. Mm-hmm. You actually talked big game and you were wrong. You were naive and young and you deserve that loss.
I love how you smile talking about losing.
I'm sure if we look back at all my content, like I'm not excited about winning. Like, it's why I even jumped in and said, no, I don't relate with that. Right? I relate with losing. I like underdogs. I can watch a sporting event that I have no vested interest in, come in, start rooting for the underdog, and then as the underdog's winning and it looks like they're going to win, reverse back to rooting for the favorite. Like, I'm always rooting for whoever's in the worst spot. Mm-hmm. Everybody's listening right now who's far more likely thinking about their startup or their career or their family than they are about starting a nonprofit. It's all the same game. If you're losing, it means... Here's my thing. If anybody has won that comes from your circumstance, you then have to acknowledge that it's possible. People deploy things like luck. Of course, look, you were adopted. Like, I was born in the Soviet Union and was able to immigrate to America during this one small window where out of hundreds of millions of people, 300,000 were able to leave during that era. Of course, but everything's of course. Like, when people are like, you're lucky, I'm like, you're lucky you're born. 400 trillion to 1 for you to be human. Like, where do you want to start this luck game? Like, my big thing is that the internet has created a world that far exceeds the opportunities that we've ever seen. Even in the most difficult circumstances, people have smartphones. And so, like, my big thing is, do you want to dwell and excuse your way through life, or do you want to become accountable and optimistic your way through life? To me, accountability and optimism is just far more interesting and more challenging and more worthwhile and less regretful when you're 90 than blame and excuses and complaining and crying about it. Ultimately, because nobody's listening to you cry. You think they are. Maybe your mom, maybe some other losing, crying player, but like, and by the way, and I hope everybody hears me very clear, that doesn't dismiss the fact that white males in America that are born into high net worth organizations, families don't have a financial advantage. Right. I would argue that from what I've observed, a lot of those people end up losing because they started with the advantage, and that is what made them soft or insecure, which led to their losing, even though they may have some more stuff. People are like, when I talk about this, people are like, yeah, well, look at their stuff or look how they live. I'm like, but they're not happy. Mm-hmm. Like, do you want a Mercedes and you're deeply unhappy and doing cocaine to escape your problems? Or do you want a Honda and be pumped? Like, by the way, and a lot of people answer Mercedes and unhappy because they're fucking stupid. Because they don't have that right now and they think. Mm-hmm. But think about how many times in life you said, if I only, and then when you get there, it's not as delicious as you thought.